Is it working? Yeah, it is working. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. We are a non-denominational organization, but here we are studying spirituality and how to evolve our our love and our knowledge. Before we start the announcements for this week, I would love to have Mark doing our opening prayer.
Let's close our eyes and let's take a nice, smart, slow, deep breath, inhaling for a duration and exhaling for a longer duration. And as you continue in this manner, on your exhale, release all of the morning's thoughts. And as you inhale, welcome in the spirits. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the spirits that join us in this moment to learn and pray alongside us. We thank you for the mentors of this group and each of us individually, and in particular, Mr. Dutra's mentor, guiding him to deliver the messages we all want and need to hear. Continue this positive energy on behalf of the entire planet, striving for peace. And we humbly request permission to begin today's BSH session. And so be it.
All right, everyone. So, as I was saying, welcome to Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center. We are here to study, to ask questions, to grow together. And then the most important thing is that this service is split into two parts. The first one, we'll have someone presenting a study for us, and very soon I'm going to share his name and his topic. And then the second part is going to be a hands-on healing where everybody is welcome to stay. And we do a meditation. And just make sure that you have your bottle of water with you so then the water can be magnetized and you can keep fluids coming in, the spiritual fluids coming in along the week. Now, the one important thing is that during the speech, make sure that you are practicing your active listening. So write down those topics that resonated with you the most. Your mentor is already working with you. So allow yourself also to download all the reflections that are needed for you to keep your evolution. And we do have plenty of opportunities for us to work on our evolution together. So allow me to show you, not this page, let me see. Oops, yeah, this one. Can you all see the BSH website? Yep.
All good.
So at pshcenter.org/events, you will see all the opportunities that we have for us to be together. So on and all the services that also we have. So on Sunday we have the service. After that we have the healing passes, as I mentioned. We also have daily prayers. So at 6 p.m. at the same Zoom link, everybody's welcome to join us, not only to receive, but also to give good energy for the entire world. Everybody is welcome. It takes usually 15-20 minutes. We also have fraternal counseling. Usually this one is on Wednesdays by 4 to 7. But if you need any other time, by all means, let us know. We are ready to talk to you, to pray with you, to reflect with you. You don't have to go but through any struggles alone. And we also have a lot of book study groups. And even if you didn't catch it right at the beginning, it's totally fine because it's easy to catch up. The group will be very happy to help you catching up. So all the studies start at 6:30, and usually it takes approximately 1 hour. So Sunday we starting this Sunday Liberation. It's tomorrow. We are studying the book Liberation by André Luis via Chico Xavier. On Tuesdays, we are studying The Consoler. It's by Emanuel through Chico Xavier. And this study is in collaboration with the Divine Light Spiritist group. It's the same Zoom link. On Wednesdays, we started recently the book Paul and Stephen, a beautiful book also by Emmanuel via Chico Xavier. And then on Thursdays, we are reading the book Living Spring, also by Emanuel via Chico Xavier. On Mondays, we have mediumship services. First part is educational, but to join this educational group, you must do the introduction to spiritism, and you're going to be invited for this group. And then the second part is not open for the public; it's only for the workers. And we do healing services, physical or emotional. Thank you. Physical. Just 1 second. Physical and emotional healing. Não tá falando, filha, com as pessoas. Espera um pouquinho, por favor. Excuse me. Filho, por favor. Por favor. Okay, I'm sorry. So we have mediumship services for healing services for physical and emotional healing. So if you or anyone is in need, do let us know. We will put the name in our book, in our treatment book. The treatment usually takes 4 weeks, and we highly encourage the person who is in treatment to stay in tune during the service. So then you are open to receive the healing passes. It's on Mondays, as I said. If you have any questions, always drop us a message, but we always have the website truly update, so then you can just go there and check. Now, let me introduce you to our friend. Goodness. I'm going to introduce you to our guest speaker today, which we are very honored to have him, Emanuel Dutra. He's a long friend of ours, and he comes here to BSH occasionally, and we are very honored to have him today. And he will be doing the closing of the study of the Spirits book, which is something that we started, I will say, 2 years ago. So it's a very special weekend. For those who do not know Emmanuel, he has degrees in engineering and French literature, and he coordinates the team that translates Kardec works into Chinese, in addition to having translated some of his books into English and Portuguese as well. He's also a member of the translation team of the Cartas de Kardec project, which is Kardec Letters project. We are very honored and happy to have you here today, brother. Thank you so much for your service, and please take it away.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here with you, and always, that talking about the Spirits book is a reason for me to be very excited and honored because of the foundational place of the Spirits book has in the corpus of the Spiritist doctrine. So thank you, Kiki, for your kind words. Mark, thank you so much for your heartfelt prayer. And Tanya, thank you for the invitation. I really feel very honored to be here with you today. So without further ado, let's go to the presentation. If I may share my screen here. I think the slideshow, right? Can you guys see it?
It's coming through.
Coming through?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. Did the page change?
Yes.
Okay, good. So just make sure I know how to operate this. This technologies can be very complicated. Anyway, so we are here to go through the final chapter, the conclusion of the Spirits book. And I think this weekend is a very special weekend. I think it's like one of those coincidences because just yesterday, we celebrated 169 years since the first edition of the Spirits book was released in 1857. So I brought for us here a title page of that first edition from 1857. You can see here on the left side, on the left. corner here, you can see the year of that edition, 1857. Um, it's a very interesting edition because it only had 501 questions compared to the 1019 questions that we are familiar with in the standard translation that we have, or the standard edition that we normally use. But I also decided it was, interesting to see what the table of contents looked like in that first edition. You can see that it's much shorter. The book had less than 180 pages, 501 questions, like I said. And if you see down here, we don't have a conclusion. We have an epilogue in this edition here. The conclusion was an entire chapter, which was written for the second edition specifically in 1959. The second edition was published in January 1860. But like I said, the first edition had only 501 questions, and one particular and very interesting aspect of that first edition is that Kardec divided the pages in two columns. And on the left side, he grouped the questions and answers, and on the right side, he provided explanations to each one of the questions. That was very interesting, but it kind of forced Kardec to come up with comments which were about the same length as the question and answer that you have on the left side. So it was a very cumbersome format for him, and was basically impossible for him to make modifications or expand the book and keeping that format. So he abandoned that format when he came up with the second edition. Okay. Okay. Are we? Can we see the next page now? This next slide. Okay.
Yes.
So you can see here all the editions that were published while Kardec was still alive. We had a total of 17 editions published between 1857, when he released the first edition, until March 1869, when he passed away. The 17th edition from 1869, I think it was June 1869, or Kardec had already passed away. As we all know, he died on March 31st, 1869. But because we had a special edition in between the fourth edition in 1960 and the fifth edition in 1961, we had one special edition here. So when you count all the editions between the first until the 16th, you have a total of 17 editions total. And you can see that we had like an interval of a number of years, almost 3 years between the first and the second edition. And even though the Spirits book went out of print very, very fast, I think with less than 1 year, the first edition was already out of print. But because Kardec was basically changing the structure of the book and expanding it substantially, he basically doubled the size of the book. We went from 500 questions to over 1,000 questions. We went from 180 pages to more than 500 pages. So that obviously was a very time-consuming task. So it took him almost 2 years, or probably more than 2 years, to come up with the second edition. But a very interesting aspect, when we see this list here of all the editions that were released, Kardec actually made a number of modifications in between all those editions here. So when we first started the project of translating the Spirits book, which was the first book we translated to other languages, we obviously had to figure out which edition should we use as a source text. for our translations, right? And so there are a number of interesting things here for us to notice. First of all, uh, in addition to all the changes that every single edition incorporated up until the 8th edition here, there is also what we call the errata page, which was published in the 5th and 6th editions. And we realized that none of the translations, at least the translations in English that we looked at, none of them incorporated the errata page to the book. So we figured out, after a very, very detailed analysis of and comparing every single edition here, we got to the conclusion that the model text for every translation should be the text of the 8th edition alongside with the page, the errata page here from the 5th and 6th edition. But one change that Kardec made from the first to the second edition, and the change that was kept all the way through until Kardec passed away, is that he decided to place this description here at the very top of the title page of the book. So he incorporated this description here, Philosophie Spiritualiste, or spiritualist philosophy, to the title page. And that change is deceptively simple because it means a lot more than we could initially imagine, but at a first glance. And what do I mean by that? By that I mean that by expanding the topics that are covered in the book, rearranging it in a more structured way, Kardec effectively transformed the Spirit's book into a fully fledged philosophical treatise, right? With basically all the important branches that we see in the body of in all philosophical works. If you looked at any kind of philosophical treatise from the 19th century, the 1800s, you would basically realize that Kardec was structuring the book in the very format that standard treatise of philosophy used. So all the important branches of philosophy are treated there. So it's actually useful for us to remember that the word philosophy itself means the love of wisdom. So it's quite interesting. If, for instance, you're a scientist or an engineer, and for instance, you get your bachelor's degree in, I don't know, physics, and then you go on to get advanced degrees. The most advanced degree that you can get in any subject or any science is called a PhD. And what does PhD means? It means philosophy doctor or doctor in philosophy. So that basically implies that whenever you master a branch of philosophy, you're becoming, a very knowledgeable person in a particular area which belongs to the entire body of the philosophical knowledge, as it were. So this idea, that we are compartmentalizing knowledge, and one branch of knowledge may not agree with the other branch of knowledge says, is something very modern, because historically we understand knowledge as just one big corpus of information, of wisdom, and everything should at least be conversant with every other branch of the same tree, right? I remember in this very prestigious institution in the math department, I remember that one very well-known professor, he was specialized in finance. And if you obviously teach finance or mathematical finance to your students, you're believing in a given economic system. But it was very funny because the professor who sat in the in the office right next to him was a specialist in number theory, but this guy was a staunch communist who did not believe in capitalism at all, or at least in the market forces. So it's this kind of schizophrenic type of behavior among people who are who claim to be people of science is at the very least interesting or intriguing. Let's put it that way. But moving on, like I said, Kardec structured the Spirits book as a philosophical treatise, but the very intelligent thing that he did is that he stripped the book, he stripped the text of the technical jargon, which could end up making the book not accessible to people in general. So you have all those very deep philosophical concepts being explained and being expounded upon, but using a very accessible language. So here we have like the four parts of the book, or the four books, or livre as he called it. We prefer to translate it as parts. And the four parts of the main body of the book, they basically cover the four main branches of philosophy, right? The part one, first causes, covers metaphysics and ontology, which treats the origin of God and origin of things. Part two, the spirit world, covers natural philosophy. And that's a very interesting insight that Kardec had, because he covers, on the one hand, he covers the physical universe. He starts, talking about the physical universe at the end of the part one, actually. But the entire body of part two covers the spirit world. And Kardec's insight was that the spirit world is also part of nature. So he treated both the physical and spiritual worlds as part of natural philosophy, because the spirit world also obeys a number of laws. And so he very intelligently he realized that he should look at both the physical and spiritual world as part of the same body of knowledge in the natural philosophy branch, right? Part three, moral laws, obviously covers ethics, which is another very important branch of philosophy. And part four, hopes and consolations, deals with theodicy and eschatology, which means the justification for the problem of evil. Why do we have evil on the planet in our lives? Why does God, who is good and merciful, why does God allow evil to exist, right? And eschatology is basically, the study of the ultimate destiny of souls. Moving on, so we saw that the corpus, or the central text of the book, the Spirit's book, is basically an exposition of the most important branches of philosophy. And the introduction and the conclusion of the book, they serve as the two bookends of the work, as it were, right? They provide the support, allowing the main text of the Spirit's books to stand up, as it were, and shine, right? So isn't it great, like, that we have AI these days? You ask AI to come up with an illustration for a given point that you wanna make, and they produce like this amazing pictures. It's jaw dropping, really. But anyways, I asked Gemini to come up with this picture of a bookends, and I think it based on the previous conversations that I was having with AI, they were able to come up with this picture here. I find it so interesting. Um, anyway, so here we see the two book ends, the introduction here on the left, the conclusion here on the left, on the right, and the Spirit's book in the center with the four parts, the first causes, part two, the spirit world, moral laws, part three, and hopes and consolations in part four. So go into the conclusion specifically. So Kardec was a master of rhetoric. So he opens the conclusion of the Spirit's book with a number of very powerful images. He makes two analogies and he makes one allusion. And the first image, the first analogy that he makes is that simple phenomena can actually be the entry point for much more complex ideas and much more complex knowledge, right? The first image that he comes up with is the one that we see here on the top left corner. He talks about the magnetic ducts that people, would put in a water ball, and they would apply a magnetic field. They would bring a magnet close to the water, and all of a sudden, all the ducks would line up in the same direction. Right. So it was basically a toy. Many kids had it like back in the day. But his point is, this little experiment with magnetism is actually something that is playing with a phenomenon or a force of nature, which actually explains, for instance, how solid matter is held together. That's because of why do we see molecules where a number of atoms can uh, be glued to each other? That's because of magnetic forces. That's also one of the forces behind the light and the sun. And I summarize here Maxwell equations, which explain all the electromagnetic phenomena, the phenomenon of light, the phenomenon of electricity, everything being derived from a, so-called simple pastime or simple uh, uh, toy, as the magnetic ducts used to be. So that's how Kardec opens the conclusion, right? Basically, he's saying that many critics dismiss Spiritism because of the trivial character of the table turning phenomenon, right? And Kardec's point is that just like the ducklings in a water basin, that may be just the entry point for a much more serious and important body of knowledge, which is the case, right? Um, Another image that he brings up is the boiling pot. When you see the steam coming up and basically lifting the lid of a pot with boiling water. That trivial phenomena is exactly what's behind. We're going to see in the next slide what's behind the extremely important and intricate phenomena of thermodynamics, which eventually would revolutionize um, the industry. And basically, Kardec's final point here in this first part of in this first section of the conclusion is that you have to be diligent, and you have to apply yourself and make a very serious effort in order to study any kind of new subject, right? Um, and that's when he comes up with the allusion to a fable which is very very well known in France. We're gonna see it later. Um, his point here is because when he published the book, um, remember in the first edition, we didn't have a conclusion, but we had an epilogue. So this conclusion here that appeared beginning with the second edition, to a certain extent, is a response to the pushback that he received when when he released the first edition. Like many people mocked the name of the book. Oh, the spirits book. Who is going to take this seriously? You're coming up with this body of knowledge that you claim that comes from spirits, right? So this is why he specifically writes about this kind of pushback that he received. He's saying, perhaps if I had offered this book here as being produced by just one person, by just myself, perhaps many more people would have taken it seriously. But he basically comes up with this warning. You really need to look at things in depth if you want to pass a judgment on something, right? You cannot be shallow and look at something for just 5 minutes and come up with a conclusion. That's when he makes the allusion to the story of the monkeys and the nut. Like, but first, like I was saying before, this is the image of the boiling pot when the steam lifts the lid of a boiling pot. That's the same phenomena behind thermodynamics, that allowed people to develop the steam engines, which is the core of the first industrial revolution. Everything that we saw in terms of the development of industries from the late 18th century, right? Yeah, all the way to the beginning of the 20th century, all of it was powered by steam engines, like steamboats, steam engines for trains and factories and whatnot, for textile plants, and everything was powered by steam engines, right? But moving on, I just wanted to briefly, talk about this allusion here that Kardec oftentimes he makes reference to fables or stories to when he wants to make a point, and the French love that. Actually, this is something that is very common specifically, especially like in a classical French literature. They make those allusions. And those fables by Aesop and La Fontaine were particularly uh, frequent in literature, in French literature in general. Kardec uses those allusions as well. This particular fable here is not by Aesop or La Fontaine. It's a story. It's a nursery rhyme by this guy here, Jean-Pierre Clary de Florian. I took the time, to go through this because it's a very important point that Kardec's trying to make here. When he says that you cannot make the same mistake as the lady monkey here on the left, because she wanted to eat a nut because she had heard that nuts are delicious, but when she tried to eat the nut, she had a hard time because the shell is obviously very hard. So I translated it. If you allow me to read it, it's very cute. So it only takes a second here. Um, so the original name is La Guénon, le Songe, la Noire, the lady monkey, the boy monkey, and the nut. A young lady monkey picks from the highest height a big round nut hanging from a tree, and as she brings it to her mouth for a bite, she makes a frown and sneers. My mom lied to me when she claimed that a nut would please my taste. What elders say, one can never trust in haste, as they may simply seek to fool the young. To hell with the nut. She then tosses the fruit away. A boy monkey picks it up, hits the shell with a stone to crack it open, husks the nut, and eats its chunks one by one, as he tells the lady monkey, your mom was right, my dear. Nuts are delectable, but you must first open them. It's clear. Remember thus this simple truth: in life, there cannot be joy without a little strife. So this is the basically Kardec's plea, opening the conclusion, for us to be serious about our endeavors and to be serious about our study, especially of subjects which are so deep and so consequential as the knowledge about the spirit world. Moving on here, section 2 basically deals with a central point of Spiritism, is the role that it plays in combating materialism. And we can actually see, through the ages that Spiritism has suffered very, very strong attacks coming from the so-called materialistic science, right? And obviously, if you demonstrate that there is more than matter in this universe, that our soul is not just a phenomenon which emerges from the activity of our brain cells. If our conscience actually survives, the death of the body. So a lot of the consequences or the corollaries of a purely materialistic theory basically fall apart. So there is an entrenched battle which we see to this date, and I think we are coming to a very harrowing point right now, because the forces that sustain this materialistic view of the world, they are coming to a point where they realize that either they destroy their antagonists, like those who claim that there is a transcendental reality beyond what we have in the visible matter. They will be eventually effaced from the face of the planet, because these people, the guardians or the gatekeepers of official science, many of them, as we're going to see later on in this presentation, many of them are actually the proxies of let's call it by the right name, the proxies of evil, right? They have a vested interest in preventing the planet from moving on to a higher, more developed stage, right? But the focus of section 2 is basically shining a light upon this battle which has existed forever, really. But because Spiritism brings it in or lays out the knowledge about the spiritual world in a very coordinated and organized fashion, Spiritism becomes a fierce adversary of the materialistic view, right? And one point which is very interesting is that when honest scientific inquiry goes into the phenomena of mediumship and all, there can only be one conclusion, is that to realize that these phenomena are real and they have like very important consequences. And here I bring for us to share this interesting page here, a letter from Pierre Curie, who was a very famous French scientist. Pierre Curie, along with Marie Curie, the two of them won a Nobel Prize in physics for their work with radioactivity. And but they were also very interested in the mediumship phenomenon, and they actually conducted a very long study and experimentation with the Italian medium Esapia Palladino, in the early 1900s. I think they started working with the Eusapi, I think, in 1902 or 1903. So they studied it for a number of years. And I bring here an excerpt, a little part of a letter that Pierre Curie wrote to a professor friend of his, who worked in a different university, a letter from Pierre Curie to Georges Gouy, right, who lived in Lyon. And basically, what the letter said is that the result, that is the result of the experiments that he conducted with Eusapia Palladino, the result is that this phenomena really exists, and it's no longer possible for me to doubt it. It is incredible, but that's the way it is, and it is impossible to deny it after the seances we have been to under perfect control conditions. So this is Pierre Curie. Uh, there's also like letters from Marie Curie confirming their findings. I chose to just include this one here because Pierre Curie ended up dying in a terrible accident just a few days after he wrote this letter. I think 4 or 5 days after he wrote this letter, he was run over by a horse cart in Paris. I think it was a very foggy day, and he was hit by the horses, and he did not survive that accident. But Marie Curie went on to continue with her experimentations, and she ended up winning a second Nobel Prize, this time around in chemistry. This is interesting because Marie Curie was the first person to win two Nobel Prizes. Uh, there were other people who won two Nobel Prizes later. You had second one to win two Nobel Prizes was Linus Pauling, I think, but the second Nobel Prize was a Peace Prize. So winning two Nobel Prizes in hard sciences, as we call it, is much harder. And there were, I think, two physicists that won two Nobel Prizes, but both of them later on, but both of them won in physics in the same subject. Marie Curie not only was the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize, but the first one to receive a Nobel Prize in a hard science, and the only person to win a Nobel Prize in two different hard sciences together. So that's something I find very interesting about the Curies. So another interesting thing about the fact that Spiritism deals with natural laws, basically, I wanted to bring up this interesting prediction that the spirits gave us in question 934, right? This part here. He's talking about like the messages that the mediums receive from our deceased relatives is a very important source of consolation for us. But they predict in question 934 that eventually we're going to have more direct and accessible means of communicating with the spirits, right? They're talking about like some sort of technological method that we're going to be able to use. We already have instrumental transcommunication, right? The people record spirits, sometimes images of spirits and whatnot, but this is still a very incipient method, right? What the spirits are saying here, we're going to have direct and accessible ways of communicating. In section 3, Kardec moves on to expand on how materialism is a very serious problem for humanity because it has terrible consequences in that it fosters selfishness, right? If we do not believe we're going to have to face the consequences of our actions during our lifetime, so why bother, curtailing our appetites or trying to be a better person, right? So the whole of section 3 basically talks about this importance, the important consequences of this battle between materialism, how it fosters selfishness, and how it's important to focus on all the indirect ways that this kind of materialistic doctrine or belief trickles down to our lives in society. Right. So specifically, we have this topic covered here in question 775, which asks what would be the effect of the weakening of family ties, right? Which is a consequence or one of the consequences of a materialistic belief. So the answer of the spirits is very clear. The consequence would be the resurgence of selfishness, right? And another question here, question 811, in the sub-question here, Kardec specifically inquires about the viability of the materialistic socialist doctrines. This is actually what he's driving at with this question here. There are those who believe in socialist or communist doctrines. They believe that the absolute equality of wealth would be the remedy for all social ills. And I think the answer of the spirit is even more important than we realize on the first reading. They answer that those who espouse those theories are either dogmatic or greedy and jealous. They do not understand that the quality they dream of would be quickly undone by the very force of things. Fight selfishness. That is your social cancer. That is your social scourge. Do not pursue utopias, which is essentially what those doctrines foster, right? Those materialistic theories, they essentially represent the pursuit of utopias. In section 4, we see, Kardec once again highlighting the importance of the law of justice, love, and charity. It's central to the spirit moral code, so much so that it, deserves one entire chapter in part 3. Chapter which is called Law of Justice, Love, and Charity, is the crowning principle of the entire ethical edifice of Spiritism, right? And in this section and also in this chapter, we see that progress is somewhat inevitable. It doesn't happen in a straight line. There is sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but this progress is sort of inevitable because, like Kardec says here, humankind naturally seeks greater happiness. And sooner or later, either through love or either through pain, we realize that either we abide by the law of justice, love, and charity, or we end up suffering, right? So that's why, like, suffering can serve as a goad that nudges us in the right direction, right? But at the end of section 4, Kardec sums up: Spiritism supplies the most powerful tool to direct progress towards moral and social perfection, right? And I forgot to mention, like, we can look at the Spirit's book as the foundation of the Spiritist corpus of knowledge, and each part of the Spirit's book is expanded upon in works that Kardec released later. So the part about natural philosophy, and the spirit phenomenon, obviously is covered by the Medium's book. The part of ethics and the moral laws is expanded, obviously, in the Gospel according to Spiritism. The part about, like, the problem of evil is covered in Heaven and Hell. And the last part is eschatology, or the final destiny of humanity and the souls is covered in Genesis. But going back here to the moral laws, as Kardec mentioned, as I said here in the previous slide, Spiritism supplies the most powerful tool to direct progress towards moral and social perfection. And he basically expands on that in depth in the Gospel according to Spiritism. And here I highlight what we see in the introduction of the Gospel, right? We can divide the content of the Gospel in 5 parts, and 4 of them are peripheral. They're not central to the actual development of the spirit, to the evolution of ourselves as eternal spirits. The central part here, is the moral teachings, because they represent the common ground where all faiths can meet, the banner under which all can take shelter, whatever their beliefs, right? And because of that, because Spiritism really talks about this common denominator among all faiths, is that we're always talking about the moral applications of Spiritism, or the spiritual knowledge, right? And in this section here, Kardec emphasizes that there's three stages of getting acquainted with Spiritism. The first one is the phenomena, right? That's how actually Kardec himself ended up studying Spiritism, because he was curious about the phenomenon of table turning. But he soon realized that was not the end of it. And actually, much more than that, that was not the most important part. There were philosophical implications to the phenomenon, all right? And when you look at the philosophical implications of that, those philosophical implications had, in their turn, moral implications, which is essentially the most important part, right? It's really putting the moral consequences, the moral corollary of Spiritism into practice, right? And here comes a very critical part, because either you provide us with a better, more logical option, or you have to basically relent and agree that what we're seeing here in this kind of ecumenical, universal moral code, which is proposed by Spiritism, is the way to, really is a solution for all the problems that we see in our lives in society, right? And specifically because of that, this kind of common denominator that the knowledge of Spiritism provides is what behind its strength, right? But at the same time, Kardec wants to emphasize, and he does it in section 6 of the conclusion, is that Spiritism at the end is not new. This knowledge has always existed, and it was scattered basically in all religious and philosophical traditions, but it kind of lay scattered in a not structured or organized format. And the important role that Spiritism had to play is to bring all this knowledge together and present it in a easy to digest format, right? And this is not from the conclusion. This is something that I came up with, is a suggestion for us to understand the word Spiritism as the knowledge of spiritual reality, right? Because if we say, oh, Spiritism is unstoppable, it kind of sounds like we're going to have like this big, powerful religion, right, that will take over the world. But that's not the point, and Kardec, will emphasize that many, many, many times. This is not about having, a world dominant religion, right? And just to make the point here, bring this part here, this excerpt from the section 6, when he says, he emphasizes, look at, the tenets of Spiritism. You have basically all of that already exists in the Catholic doctrine, right? Like spirits of every degree, the relationship with man. You have saints, talking to their guardian angels. There is a talk about reincarnation, as we see in the gospel in a number of points, in a number of parts. The emancipation of the soul, the knowledge that we can acquire in our dreams, second sight, visions, and whatnot. Everything is already present in Catholicism as well as in other religious traditions, right? And I also wanted to bring this part here, this text from the book, What is Spiritism? There's a dialogue, the priest, where Kardec says, like, Spiritism has been studied more thoroughly since its popularization and has shed light on a multitude of questions. It counts among its adherents people of all faiths who have not had to renounce their convictions because of it. Devout Catholics, Protestants of all denominations, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, and Hindus. Right. Section 7 here, basically Kardec is talking about he goes back to the three aspects of Spiritism, like the phenomenon, those, and the philosophical implications, and the people who are actually able to grasp the moral consequences of those implications, right? But most importantly, and this is what he's gonna basically emphasize in the latter part of the conclusion, is the practice of the moral doctrine or the moral consequences of this knowledge, right? And by the same token, you have three classes of adversaries, and all of them essentially are a consequence of vested interests that they have, because acknowledging the spiritual reality will basically force them to change their ways, to change their attitudes, to change not only their nominal beliefs, but it will basically force them to change what they do and to relent on their selfish attitude, right? So essentially, the key effect that this knowledge will bring to people is to awaken the religious sentiment. So it's important to see it's not like religious sentiment in the sense of belonging to a religion, but like becoming a better person, aligned with whatever set of beliefs that you have. Right. Just to emphasize this point, I would like to bring from question number 100 of the Spirit's book when we talk about spirit hierarchy. So the vast majority of spirits in our planet belong to the third order. And the big work that the spirits try and do is to work with the class that we call neutral spirits, which is basically ourselves, right? Neither virtuous enough to do good or to do a lot of good, or bad enough to stick to evil only. Basically, the majority of humanity wavers between the two, between evil and good, and we're not able to raise ourselves above the ordinary human condition. And that's the work that we have to do, is to try and stick to the good and avoid as much as possible evil, right? And obviously, here and now, we see spirits from the second order, like our guardian angels, our mentors, the saints, and very, very, very rarely we deserve the presence of spirits from the first order or pure spirits. And I mentioned here two of them, obviously Jesus and Mary, who is also a perfect spirit by most accounts. And I wanted to bring this part here from a letter from St. Paul to the Romans now, when he points out the difficulty, that we all have to stick to the precepts of the Christ, when he says that I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. So it is a constant battle, it's a daily struggle for us to basically try and do the good that we want to do, because we know that it's necessary. And that's the only way for us to usher in the world of regeneration that we think is very close to us, right? So raise ourselves up above our base instincts, and just so we can allow the predominance of spirit over matter, and ushering in the world of regeneration, which is something everyone looks forward to. Section 8, we go back to that point, that Spiritism doesn't bring anything new, but it clarifies the teachings of the gospel, making them more amenable, more easy to understand, right? And one interesting thing is that Kardec mentions the story of Caliph Omar, who said that they had to burn down the library of Alexandria, because if anything in the library was against the Quran, it should be burned. And if anything was basically represented what already was in the Quran, it was useless. So there was no need for the library. And here's a picture of that decision. They say, the legend has it that with all the scrolls and materials that they had in the library, they were able to use that as fuel for the public baths of Alexandria for more than 6 months, burning them. So, and the final, just rushing here, guess we're already over already past our time, but just to finish, the conclusion ends with a call for unity in spite of diversity, right? And Kardec mentions it's just to be expected, for us to have difference in opinions, especially in a new field of knowledge. But as the study of Spiritism went on in the first decade, Kardec was able to clarify most of the disputes, and he basically ends with a call for unity, right? And he claims, and that's the central point here that we have been saying, it is the bond, this knowledge about the spiritual world will be the bond that will unite humanity, because we will, or we already do, realize that we all belong, we are all children of the same God. And a specific warning by St. Augustine is to pay attention to what the spirits teach, right? The good spirits will only preach unity and love, never division or violence, right? And very quickly here, I bring up this topic about organization of Spiritism, is that because on the one hand he preaches unity, right? But on the other hand, he's not fostering, or he does not defend the idea of a rigid hierarchical structure, right? Quite the opposite. Kardec has consistently warned, that the study groups should be small groups, structured in a non-hierarchical format, just so it could foster the unity, the fraternal unity of the members of those groups, and favor quality over quantity always, right? So we see within several spiritist groups this kind of push towards big federations or unions or whatever. With we always, if we veer that direction, we run the risk of creating a Vatican of Spiritism, which is something we obviously do not want, right? We do not want to create a mother church in the Spiritism, right? That's why it's important for us to keep groups small, working as a network of fraternal spirits and minds. And I would like to end with this sentence here, this small part of St. Augustine's final message in the conclusion, right? Only those who are kind, humane, and benevolent to all are their favorites, the favorites of the good spirit, as they are also the favorites of Jesus, for they follow the path that he has shown will lead to him, right? And here is this part from the Sermon of the Mount. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. So that's it. Thank you very much. I guess it went a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but that's what I would like to share with you today. Thank you.
Emanuel,
Well,
that was so beautiful. Thank you so much. Mark, before I hand it over to you again, brother, just wanted to thank you so much. I think it brings, sorry, I'm here with my daughter. I think it brings so much reflections to why we have this study and how we have to interpret all of that. And as part of the everything that you brought in addition to what the book says, it was very helpful for me also to understand the whole history. So it was very rich. Thank you so much. I'll stay with my reflections and work along that in the week. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank
I
you.
could not have done it, you see. That is why you need you. I know it is a lot. It's a lot. We have been going through this for 2 years, studying together, no? Because we are here not able to teach. We are just studying, reminding what Kardec has putting together, no? I'm sure even him studying too, no? Now, like Chico said, he never stopped studying, no? He finished and studying, start the book again for, I think, for 80 years of his life, almost 70 years of his life. He was studying the gospel, finish and go back, and the whole codification. So it's a lot for us to educating ourselves. One important thing here, I like, because the gospel is teach us the direction. We are not falling human, uh, pointing to direction what to follow, but we are following the moral of the disciples of Jesus, the disciple of the disciples, and the disciple like Chico Xavier, Divaldo Franco, and many among us is a disciple because they find in this life the moral, no? And that what we are persecuting here is the moral of our life. And like St. Augustine said there, or Paul said, we're still doing a lot of evil now. We wish not doing, but we still, now what we wish we do not do, it is still the evil within us. So we still doing, we still borrow with them within us every day. But the most important is the simplicity, not imposing the lesson, not imposing spiritism. We don't impose. This is a free. That's what I love in spiritism. Don't impose spiritism to anybody else because we are a spiritual being. When we are ready for it, it will be come to us. Now we'll be open to receive it. And the other things is where we are here today, all of us, we have here Charles, we have Teresa, we have Mosen, Mark, Kent, Regina, Sunshine, Kiki, Sheila, We have Kathy, Robbie, Valerie, Rachel, and more that I don't see now. But and you, Emmanuel, we are all here and can be on that, say, wow, we are apprentices, apprentice. We are going out behind. We don't want to be on the primitive stage anymore. We are not just in the evil doing anymore, just doing that. We still battle with our evil, but we still going more toward the light. Then it is amazing. The Spiritism teaching us is like the road of progress. And the gospel, as you know, Kardec shows the Sermon of the Mountain, no, to direct our evolution on the earth as a Christian too. So Jesus is the model, and all these teachings that we have here on Spiritism, through Spiritism book, I really recommend everybody to go back and to read and study it for the rest of our lives. Thanks so much, Emmanuel, for your putting all this together. Appreciate that.
These are some very good books to read in terms of finding out information. They are a real good guide to answers that lay on our hearts. And also, when a person is struggling to know, well, what's a good spirit? Well, how do you know a good spirit from a bad spirit? It's always good to know that. And when you read about how kind they are, how benevolent they are, how they would never guide you to hurt another individual, key points, because like Tanya was saying, we're on our way, we're working to get there. And along our way, we still think, well, revenge. Every movie you watch is about revenge. Even cartoons, revenge. Let's get them back. So it's almost a programming that's within us. So we have to fight that. So it's a very good question. How do you know the good from the evil? And Spiritism teaches us that. It's very clear. Anyway, thank you so much, Emmanuel. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Regina. Thank you. If you allow me just to share exactly, precisely that part you're referring to in the conclusion is the very final paragraph of the conclusion. It's right here, exactly what you're mentioning. Good spirits have never instigated evil. They have never advised or legitimized murder and violence. That's verbatim what you're saying there. So thank you.
That's powerful.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Really enjoyed it. Never really had heard the roundabout background summary of, the way you presented it. So that's fantastic. And I really enjoyed also the very last part that you brought, not just now, but before, where you said, we don't want to recreate a Vatican of Spiritism. So to keep it small. And for me, where it keeps coming back is to myself. And I really, my moral progress, because from here, I make more of a difference than if I'm all busy organizing this, that, and the other and just talk it, right? I mean, of course, talking is part of it, but we know that, but it's the practice. And I just wanted to share real quick a quote by Joanna de Angelis, which we find in Happy Life, which summarizes my approach. And I'm not there, but I'm doing my best, as you said earlier, introducing God to humanity by being a model friend, brother, or sister in all situations. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sunshine, to bring that part is very important, because sometimes we think we have to have a big group. And the group is very weak because the number of people. Well, I cannot say that I'm a proud mother, but and say, I'm so glad we have this group because everyone here is studying together, growing together, and share the progress of each other. We are not embarrassed to talk about ourselves. We are not embarrassed to talk about our progress either, no? And talk about uh, uh, sometimes we stuck and someone push us, move us, make us. Regina, it's always she's there, being used. Where are you? What you're doing? What you need? So always, or sometimes they use me. What is going on? No, and so we'll use any one of us. There is a group as concise. My mentor said one time, Dr. Paul, the mentor, spiritual mentor of this group, the most important is not the quantity, is the synchronicity, the harmony, so that could everything from God can manifest through the simplicity of a group. Thank you.
Yeah, Emmanuel, I do have a question for you. I first of all appreciate the refreshing perspective on understanding the Spirit's book or its importance. And the way you presented was really refreshing and gave us a much interesting perspective on how it came together. And my question is, can one find a collection of those, the origins of the Spirit's book in somewhere? Are they in some place?
What do you mean by the origin of you mean like the history of the several different editions?
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have
I
somebody
actually,
wrote
I,
books?
I wrote an article about it, and I actually compare every single edition, all the modifications that Kardec incorporated to the book throughout the years. I'm actually gonna write the link to that article. You actually right here
Appreciate.
on the chat.
Yeah.
Just one second.
And it is not just because Emmanuel is here, but I just follow what he has done, the translation, because he did a wonderful work. And you find it in Amazon. You are already back in Amazon, Manu?
Yeah, it's back. So the fight, it's a constant struggle, you know. So I actually incorporated a company, you know, to publish the books, the Chinese translation, English translation of the Spirit's book, and Amazon all of a sudden, you know, decided to close my account, and like they just terminated my account through Kindle, which is how I published it, both the print version as well as the electronic digital format. But a couple of months ago, early January, I just received an email. So we decided to basically close your account. And I asked why, and they just did not say why. So that's only to be expected. Um, you know, since Tanya is mentioning it, I've had more than 300 books apprehended by the Chinese customs throughout the years. The translations that I, you know, organized and helped produce and publish in Chinese. I've been sending boxes of books to China, and 4 times now those books have been apprehended.
Right.
So that kind of a fight is, you know, it's constant. It's a perennial struggle that we face. So I wasn't too surprised when Amazon did it, but I was able to reestablish another way of like publishing through Amazon. But since Charles, since you asked me about the different editions, so let me actually, if you allow me, I can actually quickly show the. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
That's not it. Just a
Copy
second.
that you posted. Yeah.
But you see the link on the
Yeah,
chat?
I do.
Okay, so you can go to the website. Oh, it's this one here. You can see it now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Perfect. Yes.
So you have like I started like, what is the definitive text of the Spirits book? And then you actually have a list of all of them. There are links. You can actually go to the original edition of each one of them. Like you have the actual PDF file for each one of the editions. There's a dispute of, about how many questions we have, because in one of the editions, the first run of the second edition, you had 1,018 questions, and also the special edition, and the translations that were based on those two editions, they replicated, that number. But I talk about all the articles that discuss all those issues, and they basically show in this part here of the article, I show every single change that was made throughout the different editions, right? From the second to the third edition, you have these changes here. The text in red was taken out, and Kardec incorporated the text in green here. From the second to the third, fourth to the fifth, he changed. There was a grammar mistake, and so I talk about the errata page. So you can actually check it for yourself. Actually, these are snapshots of the page of the original edition.
Very good. You know, Emmanuel, you embodied the true meaning of PhD. My understanding, you have all these degrees, bachelor's, master's degree, but when you get to the level of PhD is when you not only master a body of knowledge, but you start contributing to the field by creating new knowledge. So that's PhD, and that's what you demonstrated here for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Charles, thanks for the very generous words, but I beg to disagree. I don't think I created any knowledge here.
Thank you for your humbleness.
And as we're talking, I have this intuition. I don't know, come from the spiritual mentors or from us, higher self, no? Would you be willing to give to us in the future a speech about Kardec travels? Because that would be amazingly
Sure.
present to us, because this book I think is still not in English translated yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that book touched me, moved me a lot to keep going, to keep moving, to keep studying spiritism, no? See the dedication he has in his age, no? What he was able to do, no? In his travels, and how many spiritual centers by his time was formed, societies, no? Please see a date, and when you can, we will arrange here and have you back with us. Really appreciate that.
All right. Yeah, it's going to be an honor. It's been decades. It must have been like 30 years since I read The Spiritist Travels. And so I'm sure I'm going to find very, very, very interesting things and points which are very illuminating for sure. And just circling back to what you were mentioning before, Tanya, and others, and Regina and others were talking about, like the need to not create a rigid hierarchy. I really recommend, the reading of the Spiritist Review, year 1861, the December issue of the review, because that's where he talks about, the importance of smaller groups and how we should structure centers.
And not just for that, just to add to Tanya was suggesting, is that this particular group, BSH, it's the members are very serious students of the Spiritism. And I'm convinced that this group is probably the most advanced that we have in the US at this point, that takes with the knowledge and understand so seriously about the Spiritism. So thank you.
Before we close, I'd like also to acknowledge my appreciation of your presentation and that point that Regina made about good and bad, or good and evil. And one being aware of that. But also, as you spoke, and even in that last thing that you showed and shared on screen, at the bottom of it was talking about wealth and essentially capital. And it reminds me of recognize that we as human beings are constantly trying to explain ourselves and who we are and where we are. So sociologists, and I was thinking about Max Weber, who was one of the key sociologists describing who we are and what we're doing. But he also at one point spoke about how some religious groups believe that those who receive capital, money, it was a blessing from God. And you just mentioned about the spirits not dividing, not saying violence and all this other stuff. And of course, if you look at our own history in this country, you know, there were people who were exploited in the name of making money, but those, I don't sort of blame some of those younger ones who got educated to believe that what they were doing were right, but somebody consciously thought that what they were doing was wrong, right? But the younger ones thought it was right. So anyway, I'm gonna try to sum this up. But I know that Max Weber's point was how people can be influenced by religions and beliefs of that religion. But if you use that guide, essentially what you're saying, evil spirits are not going to guide you to harm others. Then you get a clue as to what you're doing, whether or not it's right or wrong. So I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for your kind words, and you know, your explanation effectively, you know, is very, very important. It's key to, you know, how we you know, face our task as continuously evolving spirits. It's not easy because, like you were saying, you know, some people are, you know, brought up in an environment where they don't have like a counter argument to this kind of materialistic or selfish stance, right?
Right. Thank you.
I would like to thank you very much for your translation. I think that the Spirits book that you translated, I've praised it since the minute that I opened it up, because I think it's the first one that was really taken from the French directly into English, was it not?
That's correct. You know, Anna Blackwell's, which was the first translation, was issued in 1875. Anna Blackwell was a personal friend of Kardec's and Amélie Boudet's, so she actually were able to be part of their lives. But Kardec, I think she met Kardec in the late 1860s, I think 1867. But her translation has a very kind of rigid Victorian type of English, right?
Yes.
A number of French expressions, she did not quite translate it well, but after Anna Blackwell's translation, all the other translations that were done were not done from straight, you know, directly from the French text. And we know, for instance, Darrell Kimball, who is responsible for FABIS or SAIS, right, the International Spiritist Council, for that edition. Darrell doesn't speak French. Like he says it, he says that much on his own page. He actually used the Portuguese translation for his English version.
Right. So I really, really, really appreciate it. And you hooked me from page one with all the background and the history. It was really, it's a lovely book. I highly recommend it for Americans as well as anyone else. But I think that it's a fabulous translation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, I'm actually working on a Portuguese translation of the Spirits book now. FEAL, which is the Spiritist, the André Luiz Foundation in São Paulo. They translated the Portuguese translation that I prepared for the first edition of Heaven and Hell. Wow. So they asked me, you know, to actually go on and, you know, translate all of Kardec's books to Portuguese anew. Wow. I have actually an English translation of the first edition of Heaven and Hell. Is very close to be, to a publishable format, but I still need to spend at least 100 hours on it, like doing a final revision.
Which books do you have
Yeah.
on already translate to English? You have
already published. We only have the Spirits book. I use Janet Duncan's translation of Gospel according to Spiritism.
I love her translation too.
Yeah, and she passed away in January, right? It's been like, yeah. So
we have hers. That is the only what I studied, because she dedicated to Greg and to Annual 4. When Greg went to Paris and this first Spiritist Congress in France.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have this almost finished English translation of Heaven and Hell. That one is very important because we are now aware of the changes that were made after Kardec passed away in 1869, both in Genesis and Heaven and Hell. So it's important for us to have an English version.
And I think the mediumship too, no?
What's that?
The mediumship book? The mediums?
No, so I have a translation of the mediums book in Chinese. In Chinese, we have the Spirits book, the mediums book, and the Gospel.
Okay.
So
and you're working on a postmortem work of Allan Kardec, né? So, that is what we are waiting.
Tanya, so that's the work which is, I think we spoke about it like before, because that's one of the works that Le Marie actually, changed. And now we have concrete proof that Le Marie made changes to Kardec's work writings. And we have like the concrete proof in that particular book, their posthumous writings, because it was actually Charles Kemp, right, who uncovered the manuscript, confirming that both Le Marie and Delian made spurious changes to Kardec's works. So there is a big discussion that we have here. That's why I think it's very important for us to have translations of the first edition, both of Céu e Inferno and Heaven and Hell and Genesis.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Thank
and
you.
In Portuguese, we have Heaven and Hell in Portuguese, the translation.
Thank you again. And so you have a mission in the future with us, and you are welcome to come back anytime. So we really love to have you here. We need someone like you to share your knowledge with us as the students. We study, and we really appreciate your time and to come today with us. I know Mark is there, but what we are doing now, the mentor saying, we just not go through break. We just do a passes. Everyone get in a position to receive a passes. The mentors is already together. If someone want to put a music charge, I would do the passes. I would just pray now together, okay? Don't need to put in.
Go ahead and start. I'm going to try to get it loaded up now.
The music.
Yes.
So we all together in such a union of our hearts and spirit together in this wonderful opportunity that we all are joining, gathering, participating, allowing our spirit to grow a little more today. A lot of information was given to us, and hopefully this will be motivating us to go back to the first page of the Spiritism again, the Spiritist book, and studying it again and again and again, as many times that is in need. So, my beloved brothers and sisters, and in the position to receive, we humbly request
Little too loud. Too loud, Mark.
We humbly request our individual mentors as we are connecting with them. And through our individual mentors, with our spiritual friends, and we connect with one another, embracing one another, hugging one another, sharing our respect and gratitude, sharing our love. And together with the mentor of this group, Dr. Paulo, Brother Joseph, Sister Sheila, Dr. Frederico Rudolph, Sister Teresa, and all the other spiritual guides and mentors. Together we go to Dr. Bezerra de Menezes. Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, we are so thankful and grateful for your guidance, for your protection, for your support in our spiritism and spiritual evolution in our daily life. Thank you, Dr. Bezerra, to take us to our Divine Mother Mary. As was saying today, Divine Mother, in a higher realm, your evolution, you renunciate to be here on earth, to be a vessel to the Christ of this planet, to our beloved Jesus Christ. So through you, we go to our Lord Jesus and looking into his eyes with such love and gratitude, as you promise that you're going to the Father, but you will not leave us alone. And we are not alone, as you promise to love Jesus. And here we are renewing the teachings that you have taught the humankind. The new era, the new gospel, the new act, and a spirit abounding our head and feet of gratitude to you, Lord Jesus, because you are Father, Creator, Heavenly Father, beloved Creator. We are here, your sons and daughters, requesting, please help us and awaken our spiritual mind, the intelligence and knowledge that is within us, to heal our spirit, to heal our mind, to heal our emotional bodies, and what we are the most in need today, to heal our physical ailments from our invigilance. Please help us to heal what is the most important for today, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Please take away of all that is not in need, that we insist in bringing back to our life, the words the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings that is not longer in harmony with our spiritual and our physical life anymore. Help us to grow a little more in every day, to have a good eyes to see only goodness, and to have a good thoughts to say any good words and kind word to one another, and to have a good feelings toward our beloved brothers and sisters in our journey. It's our desire, Heavenly Father, to be good every day, better than yesterday. And the mentors asking each of you, make your request to Jesus now. What do you want from him? What is the most important for you to receive now? What you're waiting to release the old in you, the old patterns, and to have a new space to the divine virtues, the divine healing energy that you have requests for. So ask, and you shall receive. And together, Lord Jesus, we ask for peace in ourselves, and may this peace get out of our hearts and minds and share this peace to whole humankind, to every nations. Let be peace. Let be love. That we grow in harmony with one another, with respect, with everybody's defects and qualities. We thank you, Lord Jesus, for blessing us, to bless our family, our neighborhood, to bless our city, to bless our state that we are representing right now, to bless this nation, this country, and every single nation, every single city, states, and countries, and their administrators throughout the world. We thank you, Lord Jesus. Together we pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day, Heavenly Father, our daily bread. Please forgive our trespasses, as we trespass those who trespass against us. Lead not into temptation, Father. Please deliver us from evil. For thy, Father, is the kingdom, the power, the glory, the love, the light, the wisdom, and the truth, the justice, forever and ever. With such love and gratitude, we thank all of you and our brothers and sisters who are here with us sharing this important day. And bless our week studies, and bless our actions and attitude. With such love and gratitude again. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Amen. Amen. Thank you all. Miss you all so much. Thank you for being here. God bless you all. Thank you, Manu.
God bless
you,
you.
my
Thank
friends.
you.
Don't
Thank
disappear
you.
from us, okay?
Okay. Thank
Hi,
you so much.
Valerie.
Hey, no.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Emmanuel.
Totally loved it. My book is worn
Thank you.
You see?
Yeah,
book
I
too.
have it. I have it.
I adore it. I adore it. I adore it.
For me, it's the best. I don't even touch the others.
Thank you. It's an honor. Thank
God
you.
bless you, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a good day. See some of
Bye.
you later on today.